May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be acceptable unto you, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So last week I talked about the first sermon that I gave after 9/11. And the topic really was hope more than anything. One of the reasons I like that song that we just did, because it is filled with hope. But I remember another sermon that I gave, another service that I did related to 9/11. I don't know how many of you remember, but one of those planes that took off and flew right into one of the World Trade Center buildings was bound for Los Angeles, where I was living. And among those passengers were 7 people from Boston University who were coming home from a meeting there at Boston University. 7 people. One also, by the way, pregnant. That was a very difficult service. And at the reception afterwards, I was talking with one person, a young person, and she talked about how this sort of paralyzed her because she said, I've never known anybody who died before. And so this is really the first time I've ever thought about death and about my own dying. She was one of those that was young and thought they would live forever. I was pretty young then. Maybe I even thought that, but probably not completely, because as a priest, I would have done several memorial services by that time. The young, often they think they'll live forever. Just look at those pictures from Florida during spring break. The problem also is, though, that their behavior affects others. Sometimes this gospel story of Lazarus is interpreted as Jesus can bring anybody back to life. Well, he can't. Lazarus rose that day in that scripture, but Lazarus eventually died. We all eventually die. In 1925, the famed playwright Eugene O'Neill wrote a play called Lazarus Laughed. And it depicts Lazarus's life after he rolls out of that tomb. And he lived a different life after that. He exited that tomb with a whole new attitude. He saw life differently, new eyes. And in the play he sings and he dances and he tells the confused people of the town, do not be afraid. And he was not afraid. Death can be a doorway to a new life. Infectious joy took over in his hometown, and it spread. It spread so far and wide that the emperor called Lazarus, called him in to see him. And he said, I don't want you to continue giving this message because you're taking away the people's fear. You know, emperors rule so often with fear as a tool for themselves. And the emperor actually threatens Lazarus with death if he doesn't stop talking about this new way of living. And so what does Lazarus do? Think again about the title of that. Lazarus laughed. As we continue to walk with Jesus through Lent, getting closer and closer to Jerusalem, and closer to the cross. Maybe we too, even in the midst of all of this that's going on around us, inside of us, maybe we too can dance a little, sing a little, and maybe laugh a little. Remember that the tomb has no power over Jesus. And because of that, we are called to a whole new way of life, to see the world with new eyes, just as Lazarus did when he exited his tomb. So, let's get out of our tombs, still shelter in place, but metaphorically, let's get out of our tombs and let's touch the earth and drink in the sky. Give one another virtual hugs. If you're in the same house with somebody and none of you are sick, maybe give each other hugs. And though what we are going through is scary, remember what Jesus and the angels tell us and what Lazarus tells us. Do not be afraid. God walks with us through it all. Amen.